At this point, I'm using really short, neat strokes with my different charcoal pencils to come in and lay in shapes of dark value. You only have one charcoal pencil, you just have to really make sure that you're easing up. You have to do that anyways. You can still make a pretty dark mark with any type of charcoal pencil. But it's really important that you keep your charcoal pencil very sharp. So if I sharpen my charcoal pencil with an X-Acto knife, I will come back in and keep that point nice and sharp with just some sandpaper. If I'm using a pencil sharpener, I'm constantly sharpening it. So very short, neat strokes. And watch how you hold your pencil. So when you're trying to go into a lighter area, you're going to hold it more at the end. If you're trying to make a darker area, you may choke up more on the pencil. So you're looking for shapes of lights and darks, and sometimes you're just easing into the whites of the paper, constantly sharpening it. So right now I'm using some sandpaper. Any kind of sandpaper is fine. And then really short, neat strokes. Drawing is all about looking for little shapes. So right now I'm coming in and I'm looking at little tiny textures. But it's about looking at the shapes that you're seeing. So you're not just making up a texture or kind of trying to recreate the texture. Each little shape should be drawn how you see it. The biggest problems that people have when drawing is that they try to draw what they think things look like instead of just looking for the shapes. Each one of the shapes on the boot of the skate are very simple shapes that just about anybody can draw. When you put them all together next to each other, you create all of this value. So don't make it harder than it needs to be. Look for the shapes. When you look for the shapes, that's what drawing is, and looking at the differences in value. The lightest areas are going to be where the light hits the object. Anything else that is more in the shadowed side or shadowed areas, even if there's light reflecting into it, it's still going to be a little bit darker than the lightest areas. It's important to look for value changes. It's important to look at how the value eases into those light areas, but it's also just very important for you to look for shapes of lights and darks. Technique is important here. You're really looking for really looking to use short, neat strokes as you're doing this. There's no way around that. And sometimes by doing that, it looks nice to leave that kind of texture that's created from the charcoal pencil as opposed to smoothing it all out. There are some areas that you may want to end up completely smoothing out, or maybe you kind of come in and do a little bit of a variety, but there can be something really nice about like that little bit of texture that's created as well. So I'm looking for all of these shapes, I'm looking for the textures, I'm trying to create these textures, and in order to do that, I have to keep sharpening my pencil. Eventually I need to come back over and do a layer of short, neat strokes and some more work in the shadow that's here. That will be the next thing that I do when I'm done with this. Sometimes I'm still erasing a little bit, especially in the areas that just still have some of the vine charcoal. You can still erase a little bit after you've added some compressed, and I'll take my eraser and keep cleaning up my whites. because little bits of charcoal will fall onto them, and I want to make sure to preserve my lightest areas. So you're constantly kind of coming back and forth and cleaning those things and making sure that you're keeping those. But I still am using my kneaded eraser a little bit, and a lot of it is just to preserve these whites. So I might be coming into like small little areas, making sure that I'm keeping them. I need to come in with short, neat strokes into all of this shadowed area. And I'm still kind of lightening up a little bit of this area underneath the boot so that I get that nice blend. So I'm using the kneaded eraser a little bit here, and then I'm going to be kind of coming over it, and I'm defining and looking for the little shapes that I see. These little details are so important because that's what gives this boot of the skate interest. If it was just all the same, it wouldn't be that interesting. So finding these little textures, these little just grooves of lights and darks make this a lot more interesting. So it's so important that I come in and put those in.